Amen, my brother. Amen. That's encouraging, man. That's encouraging. Thank you, bro. That's encouraging. Matter of fact, I'm going to pin that. I'm going to pin that message. Thank you, my brother. Pearl Jam, not really. Sorry, bro. I mean, I know they're big songs, you know, and I don't even know the drums on those. I try not to learn other people's stuff. You know what I mean? It's hard to develop your own style if you're learning other people's stuff, so. I gotta loosen up. I gotta loosen up. I keep feeling myself tense up. Ah. Blues? Then you can get the what's the name I'm looking for? Blues shuffle. Raheem. Sorry, bro. Sad day. What's going on, bro? Oh, I didn't. That was yours? Oh no. I blocked him because I don't use the N word. So you know, Kevin. Y'all got a spam, my brother. I blocked him because you know, I don't use the N word. You know, I don't use it in my household. I don't use it in my speech. You know, it's offensive to me. You know. But it's funny you said blues. A lot of guys can't play. A lot of guys can't. They can't. A lot of guys can't play blues, man. When blues is the basis of American music, you know. And I'll be honest. I started playing blues. I remember this guy. He taught me jazz, actually, but he always wanted to play blues. And I remember I used to be like, I hate blues. And it wasn't until like he wouldn't force me to play it. He'd just be like, let's play blues. Let's play blues. And I was like, come on, bro, you bluesing me to death, you know. I never said it, but I thought that. And it wasn't until I actually learned how to play blues that I realized, like, oh, snap. I started hearing it in all other forms of music. What's up? Yo, did you get that sample? Did you get it? I sent it. I sent it right after I got off stream. I sent it. Master of Puppets. Trying to remember it. I mean, you're not gonna. It's not like I'm on the drum set, but. What does it say? Oh, wow. Bro, feel better. You got a headache? Really? Okay, so blues is the basis. No. Okay, so hold on. Okay, Google. Okay, wait. I think so. Yeah, I think you should. I think you should. I think you should learn blues. First of all, it's the easiest and the most attainable. You know, like this ain't hard. Born on the bad side. Born on the bad side of town. It's simple. You can actually sing and play it. You know, or "See home, Chicago." Then you got so the thing with blues is it's easy, it's easily obtainable. Like you can, it's easy to learn. It's easy to learn. All right, I'm trying to adjust this. It's easy to learn, and in terms of rolls, because it's easy to learn, it's easy to figure out how to play rolls with it. You know, you can play polyrhythms. You can do all kinds of stuff. Oops. You can do all kinds of stuff with blues. So I suggest learn blues first. You know. There we go. I don't have a No, that's Over the Mountain. Crazy Train. Crazy, but that's how it goes. Lazy people, living as follows. Maybe it's not too late to let alone and forget how to hate. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. Oh, I miss Randy Rhoads, man. Oof. I miss Randy Rhoads. It's not the Trooper. Oh, man. It's an Iron Maiden song off of Peace of Mind. I think it's an instrumental. We used to play all that stuff, man. We used to play Maiden, all kinds of stuff. Rush. Oh yeah. Hold on. Hold on with that question. Somebody asked, what kind of kit is this? This is a DW Smart Practice Kit. It's basically this. It's a bunch of practice pads. I don't know if you guys can see it. I just wanted to answer that question. But my favorite band from the 80s, that's a hard question. My favorite band from the 80s would have to be I mean, I had bands from the 70s that went into the 80s. Like Rush. They were from the 70s that went into the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. Probably like I was into Metallica for a while, but my favorite band, I can't even say the Police, because they started in '78. A friend of mine saw them on their first American tour at CBGB's when they were like nobody. Chris McGuire. Oh man. Favorite band from the 80s. I could say Pink Floyd, but they started off in the 60s. I could say Van Halen, but they started in '78. Van Halen's one of my all-time favorite bands. Favorite 80s band. Probably Dead Kennedys. Suicidal Tendencies, definitely. YouTube might block me for that word, but they're a great band. I mean, they're still going. Suicidal, the Chili Peppers. I also like a lot of bands that people would be like, ew, you like them? Like, I'm sorry, man. I like Duran Duran, bro. I like Tears for Fears. I like the Psychedelic Furs. I liked a lot of new wave, man. You know, I liked a lot of new wave. He said hired. Why? I like new way. I like stuff that's different. Um, plus, plus, um, like bands like Tears for Fears and Duran Duran and Echo and the Bunnymen and Psychedelic Furs and even Wham. I loved Wham. Um, I wasn't really into that whole. Do you really want to hurt me? They were trash. They were horrible. Um, and he couldn't sing. He just had an image, and the music was just cool enough, but he was trash. Boy George, he was horrible. You know, even Dexy's Midnight Runners. Even that one band, Big Country, where they made the guitarists sound like bagpipes. I used to love them. But you know, I also like punk. I learned metal. Of course, Ozzy. I'll say Ripping Corpse. But the only reason why, well, I do like their music. But I know those guys, so, you know, I grew up with those guys. The first band I was ever in, it was Dave Bizzigatti. It was me, Dave Bizzigatti, who's the bass player for Ripping Corpse. But me, Dave Bizzigatti, and Nicky Spons, we had a punk trio. But the Cars. I think I bought. That's what that noise is. I think I bought every Cars album. Same thing with the Police. I bought and learned all their albums. Rush. I learned every album up to like Chutes and Ladders. Even the garbage one, their first one with John Rutsey. I learned that one too. I even learned the bootlegs. Like back then, this is during the vinyl era. I would go to mom and pop stores, and usually the sound man would make board tapes and get them pressed up into vinyl and sell them to different mom and pop record stores. I bought the bootlegs. I mean, of course, Zeppelin, but they're not 80s. Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers, but those are 70s. So like I just have a wide range of stuff that I like. I like everything as long as it's good. You know, if it's made with some intention and it's good and you're adding to the vocabulary of music, I love it. I don't know what that is. The American footballs never meant drum break. I don't know what that is. Of course, I love like Eric B. and Rakim, Public Enemy, the Beastie Boys, Tribe Called Quest, John Scofield Band. That's, woo, everybody in that band was smoking. Really? That's that is Wi-Fi. Comcast sucks. Best drummer of all time? Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, it's Comcast. Best drummer of all time? That's hard. Best drummers. That's a hard question because there is no best drummer of all time. I think some drummers are more important than others. Like for instance, I was also a Kiss freak. You know, especially I also play guitar. I started off playing guitar. But I I was a hardcore guitarist, and then I started playing drums. Speaking of Kiss, I started playing drums for two reasons. I started playing drums because I used to look like, I don't know if you remember Family Matters, but Steve Urkel, I used to look like Steve Urkel with bad skin, really bad skin, and I was desperate to be cool, and there was one of the cool guys that I went to school with, his name was Ronnie Cochran-Zadi, and he played drums. They played in a power trio. It was like a Zeppelin cover band. They didn't have a singer yet. And they would play stuff like Good Times, Bad Times, all the classic Zeppelin stuff. And I was so desperate to be cool, I lied to my friends and said, I can play drums. Not realizing that if I just stuck the guitar, I would have been deemed cool, because I was actually really, really good. I still play a little, but I play more drums than anything. I mean, I can still, handle myself on guitar and bass. But I had to actually learn how to play drums to keep up the lie. So I got spackle buckets and Tupperware bowls and boxes, and I went in my mom's closet, and those vanity hangers that have the cloth on them so they don't put the points in your shoulders like regular hangers do. They're like covered in cloth. And they have that. They got like a piece of, it's wood. They're covered in cloth. They got the piece of wire that goes down. It loops, and in the loop was a stick. Well, I raided my mom's closet and stole a bunch of the sticks off the bottom, and I just taught myself how to play drums. You know, and I was so obsessed, you know, and so afraid of like social outcast, you know, being a social outcast, be like, you can't play, you know, being a poser basically, that I obsessed over it, and I just got really, really good at it. And then I got so good that I was better than Ronnie Cocker-Mazzani and everybody else in my town and the next town over, and like, I got like really good in a short period of time. Really good in a short period of time. Within 5 years, I was playing pretty much the way at the level I play now. You know, so I obsessed. I like played. I practiced 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. On Saturday it was 6 to 7. On Sunday it was, you know, if we didn't go to church, and we didn't go to like Baptist church, you know, we went to a traditional Episcopalian church where it was like, oh, baby mama, with thy spirit, let us give thanks to the Lord. Amen. Let us pray. You know, so, you know, but if we weren't going to church, but I've always kind of, you know, well, I just love all kinds of music, but that's a long way, that, you know, back to the original thing about Kiss. You know, what's his name? Ace Frehley, you know, I realized, I was like, man, he wasn't all of that. You know, and then Peter Criss, I started learning drums because it was exciting and what have you. But that's why I say there's no best drummer. There are more important drummers. Like Zeppelin, Bonham is more important. He's not the best. He's an important drummer. Mitch Mitchell is an important drummer. Stuart Copeland, Neil Peart, Carl Palmer, Ginger Baker to a lesser degree. Ginger Baker, personally, was like the Peter Criss of drums. He was in a good band. You know, but nobody checking for him. You know, so I think there are important drummers. Add to the vocabulary of drums. You know. Oops. Then you got guys like Alex Van Halen, who I think his contribution is his feel and the tone. Like, he had a really unique, distinctive tone. Carmine Appice, although I liked his younger brother Vinny better. Mike Portnoy. My lips are chapped. You know, so I think they aren't the best. I think there are more important drummers. Some guys are just there. They were just fortunate to be in a good band. Oh, thank you, John. John, what's up, man? Yeah. Now, Jonathan Moffett, he's a good show drummer. Jonathan Moffett. The thing about Jonathan Moffett, there's two groups of drummers. There's the guys who are the touring drummers, and there's the guys who are the people who are so unique that you actually, people pay them to play on their stuff. And then, well, three kinds. And then there are the guys who do both. Jonathan Moffett was a touring drummer. Michael didn't hire him for the studio stuff. He hired him for the live stuff. Mike hired John J.R. Robinson. He hired Jeff Porcaro. He hired basically the band Toto. That's who Quincy Jones used to play all this stuff. Toto. You know, all those guys. Except for like Beat It. You know, Eddie Van Halen just kind of walked in and was like, hey, I'll play a solo show. Or did a one take and that was it. But the band Toto was pretty much Quincy Jones's house band that they recorded everything. That's, you know, but Jonathan Moffett wasn't one of them. Jonathan Moffett he's a good show drummer. You know, and the thing about drums is you want to be so unique. The thing is, you want to be so unique that when people hear you, they know who you are. They know exactly who you are. You don't want to be the guy who sounds generic, but then they're really showy, so people kind of hire them to go on tour, because what happens is you end up having to go on tour all the time, you know, and you know you end up being like the old guy who, you know, the only way he can make money is going on tour and doing clinics, and nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be that, you know. I knew a guy. He sang for a band called Heatwave. And, yeah. Oh, yeah. But, there's a guy, I don't want to, yeah, I respect the guy, and I respect enough to leave his anonymity. But I like I played with his kids have a band and everything, and I was the drummer for them and stuff like that. But their piano player wrote all their songs and wrote the lyrics. But, you know, we all go to church together. And of course, he didn't write the song, so he had to go on tour. And the guy who was writing the songs, the piano player, Ted Temperton, the songs that the band Heatwave didn't want, well, Quincy Jones hired him. He was like, hey man, can you write songs? I like the way you guys, I like the songwriting you do. Can you write songs for Michael Jackson? This is when Mike was coming out with his Off the Wall album. So he's like, yeah, sure. So the songs that the band he was in, the songs that they didn't like, he just gave them to Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson sang them. And then they would go, like, the band would hear the songs on the radio, they'd be like, hey man, that sounds like your song. He'd be like, yeah, that is my song. Well, how come we ain't playing it? Well, you didn't like it, so I gave it to Michael Jackson. Needless to say, he wrote songs on Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. Didn't have to tour, didn't have to do anything. Meanwhile, because the guys in the band weren't writing the songs, they had to tour. They had to. Now, I watched this guy tour, and eventually he got to a point where and this is going somewhere, eventually he got to a point where he had a stroke. And I remember him walking into church, and it was really sad, man. You know, like, yeah, you know, he's out of hospital, he came to church, and guess what he had to do the next week? Go on tour. Now, that being said, if you're a drummer, and you don't sound different and unique, you know, to the point where people will hire you, you're going to be forced to go on tour because you sound like every other drummer. If you sound like every other drummer and you work on a lot of flashy stuff, now that stuff has a place. There's a place for that. You know, there's a place for the performance type, you know, flipping the sticks. There's a place for that. But if that's what you're known for, the showiness, you know, but you sound like everybody else, nobody's going to hire you to play their stuff because you sound like everybody else. So you're stuck being on tour. Which brings me to another point. It's cool to play drums, but I suggest playing another instrument. Because no one could play, no one could put you in. You don't want everybody else to write songs because this is the context that they think you should be in. You should always be in control of your own musical context. You should be able to write your own songs so you could put yourself in the context that you want to be. You know, so people can hear you the way, in the musical context that you're supposed to be heard in, not somebody else's. Because a lot of times they'll be like, well, why don't you play a little like such and such and such? Or play like blasey blasey blah. Or play like this guy, or play like that guy, you know, because they don't know what musical context you should be played in. Now, if you write songs that if you write a song that kind of leans to your strengths, then they could be like, oh, well, you know what? That's inspiring. I'm going to write a song like this, and I want him to play on my song. You know what I mean? So, always, especially if you're a drummer. You know, always, you know, if you're a drummer, learn how to write songs, man. Learn how to write songs. Learn another instrument. Even learn to make some beats or something. You know, everything. Like I got FL Studio, I got Pro Tools, I got Logic, I got Ableton Live. Like I have EDM albums out. Matter of fact, the only stuff that The only stuff I have of my own music is EDM stuff. Like I don't have. Now. There's music out with me playing drums because guys ask me, "Hey man, can you play drums on? I got these songs. Can you play drums?" Yeah, sure. So they would come to my house and I would just record their stuff. And I mean, I tell you what, I got some songs. I need a guitar solo on this one because I'm not good at soloing. I can play, but I can't solo. I mean, I can. I just haven't sat down and actually buckled down and learned. But you know, I do swaps. Now you can go on iTunes and all that stuff, and you can hear my stuff. But in terms of like my own music, I just put out EDM stuff and pop stuff and all of that stuff because I wanted to focus on writing songs. You know what I mean? And I just got to a point where I was like, okay, well, you know, like people, I've gotten offers to do like festivals, like do DJ festivals and stuff like that. But I'm not a DJ. I'm a songwriter, arranger, producer. You know, and drums. You know, drums are playing the drums are very physically demanding. It's a very physically demanding instrument. Like I have a gym right over there. You know, we were fortunate enough to buy this house. It has it's got a bonus room, so I turned it into my gym. You know, because this is a physically demanding instrument, and it requires commitment. The good thing is you stay healthy. The bad thing is if you don't stay on top of your game, you know, time catches up, you know. You know, so drums are a really so drums is really demanding. You know, I've had to kind of revamp my technique. You know, just from years of playing, I developed really bad carpal tunnel. Like it hurts to do this. It don't hurt to do this though. You know, so I that's part of the reason why I use finger technique. You know, now I play. You know, I think my technique has definitely gotten better. It's gotten more effortless. You know, like I said, within 5 years, I obsessed so much. I was pretty much at this level, that I'm at now. But just bad tech, I had horrible technique. Now, it takes less effort. It's a lot smoother. I have more control. The feel is better, you know, so. You know, so, but yeah, you know, back in the day playing that, I'd be like, you know, but now it's just, I could vomit it out, you know, so. A modern day warrior, mean pride. Today's top sawyer got a mean pride, bud. No, it's not, mine is not, no, his mind is not for rent. And he got a government. Always hopeful we get discontent. You know, changes aren't permanent. Changes. The world is love and life are deep. Baby, as it are wide. Yeah, I knew that whole, well, yeah, yeah. 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 Drums are the easiest but the hardest instrument. You know, they're easy because you can just, you got your hands, babies, I tell people this all the time. Babies come out the womb, give them like 2 or 3 months and they start hitting on stuff. You know, but what drum set, you're using all 4 limbs, especially like with Latin music or like metal drummers, where it's just double bass and they're expected for their feet and their hands to match. Your hands have to be just as fast as your feet. Latin drummers, they're doing stuff like, you know what I mean? They're doing stuff, or they're doing stuff that's just completely in 4 different directions. And and then if you add that to like jazz, where you're expected to like send your limbs in 4 different directions and improvise on top of that. So that's a level of, that's left and right brain. That's the logic of physicality of, okay, my limbs are supposed to go in different directions. I can handle that. That's totally right brain or left, whatever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's one side of the brain where it's, it's physical. It doesn't take imagination. It's just muscle memory and it's physical. Then the other component to it is you're expected to play a song, play the framework. I mean, you're given the framework and say, okay, fill in the colors that you want. Whatever color you want, fill it in. Now you're expected to improvise, to come up with your magic, conjure up different ways of making this song sound fresh and new. If you playing that song night after night, that ain't easy. You run out of ideas. So you're forced to dig deep to come up with different ideas on how to you know, how to improvise, on what to use, and you know what I mean. um and the thing about that is you're expected to play it like you meant to do it. You're expected to improvise, to come up with an improvised piece and sound like that's what you played night after night. That is ridiculously difficult. Now, once you get used to it, you know, it's kind of what it is. Why are guitars so hard to jam with? Good question. I got an answer. I've only found one person jammable in 33 years, man. I swear, you answered your own question. Ego is getting worse, and I'm not doing 808 tracks. If you're a guitarist, learn to follow drums. Thank you. Um, um, oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was the first comment. I had to pin that. But you answered your own question. Ego. Um, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of lead singer disease. Well, it's lead guitarist disease too. They have the same disease. Um, and the fact of the matter is, I heard this from a guitarist and I heard this from a bassist. The most important person in the band is the drummer, because the drummer sets the tone for how the song's going to sound. Actually, I heard it from a piano player too. Duke Ellington said this. Alan Halsworth, who's a legendary guitarist, he said it. And Anthony Jackson, who's a legendary bassist, he said it. They all said the same thing. And what confirmed my thought was, I always thought, okay, if you had a good band but a crappy drummer, people would be like, that band sucks. But if you had a bad band and a really good drummer, people would be like, well, they need a little work, but they sound pretty good. Duke Ellington actually ended up saying, he's quoted as saying the same thing. He said it a little more eloquently. But it's the same thing. The most important and this guy was a piano player who had the Duke Ellington Orchestra, you know, and he said, I start with the drummer. It all starts with the drummer. So, you know, but yeah, so. But like that's the crazy part about it. Like, you got instrumental bands, you don't need a singer. You know, you got organ trios. It's just, you know, a a saxophone player, a drummer, and an organist who plays bass with the bass pedals. Like, you know, or you might, like John McLaughlin had an organ trio with him on guitar, Joey DeFrancisco on organ, R.I.P. bro, and Dennis Chambers on drums. But you don't need a guitarist. You don't need a singer. And a lot of guitarists, they want to be Yngwie, or they want to be Eddie Van Halen, or they want to be George Lynch, or they want to be whoever, fill in the blank. You know what I mean? And, you know, or they want to be Hendrix, or they want to be Jimmy Page, or, you know, they want to be Jeff Beck. You know, it's ego. You know, it's ego. Now, I've found that I work with jazz guitarists. You know, jazz guitarists tend to be a little more humble, because it's kind of like they realize their place in the grand scheme of jazz, in that, you know, we can kick you out and get a saxophone player to take your place. You know what I mean? If it's about solos, you know, or if it, you know, we could get a pianist to do what you do. So simmer down, bro. You know, but rock and roll is it. There's the, because you got to look at, like, rock music is, You know, it's always the, you know, the lead guitar. It's almost like the lead guitarist show. You know, even down to like Chuck Berry. You know, but that's the drawback of it. That's the, you know, in terms of, of like dealing with uh the ego of guitarists. You know, they think they lead the band, you know, and the drummer is the timekeeper. Like, and I'll say this, it's not just drummers. I mean, it's not just guitarists. I've experienced that. That's just people. People think the only person that has to work with a metronome, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, you know, is the drummer, and they don't have to do it. And it's like, the guys who get hired for gigs are the guys who work with the metronome, the pianist who works with a metronome, the guitarist who works with a metronome, the bassist who works with a metronome, the saxophonist who works with the whatever instrument. Outside of the drummer, if you play an instrument and you work with a metronome, people will always hire you. I had a girl. She was a guitarist in our church band, and I always noticed she had insane timing. Like, her timing, she had drummer's timing. You know, she had drummer's timing. That's the only way you could put it. She had drummers. This little white girl, good, insane guitarist, never dropped a beat, never nothing. And I finally pulled this to the side. I was like, Maria, what? No, her name was not Maria. That's her sister, Mia. I'm like, Mia, your timing is ridiculous. You got drummer's timing. She goes, oh, I played quads in high school. I was like, that's why. That's why. You know what I mean? And she was like, yeah, I played quads. So I played drums in high school, you know. So, yeah, you know. Or another guy, this guy named Jim Farkas. He went to school with one of the guys in Snarky Puppy. One of the guitarists. But, when he was in our band, he was like 19. And this dude's timing was insane. Come to find out, he started off as a drummer. Eddie Van Halen. His timing was ridiculous. He played drums before him and Alex switched. So the best musicians, even Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder was a drummer. You know, so the best musicians a lot of times were drummers. Jaco Pastorius, the legendary bassist, he was a drummer. Started off as a drummer, broke his arm playing football, and started playing bass. So you know, even another guy I know that he actually went to another ministry, but he was in our ministry and he was the lead guitarist. And he, you know, his timing was whatever. Until he bought a drum set and started specifically pursuing drums and learning how to play drums. As soon as he did that, timing went through the roof. Now, you don't have to do that. You don't have to resort to going out and spending a bunch of gear, buy a drum set. Just spend time dedicating yourself to working on your timing, you know, and work with a metronome and be deliberate about it. Don't just wiggle your fingers. No, try to what drummers call burying the click. Try to bury the click. Try to play in a way where not play so loud that you can't hear the click, but your timing is so on point that you can't tell if it's you're like, okay, like I almost can't hear the click. You know what I mean? And that's consistent. Like if it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, you don't hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You hear it's dead on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Yeah, the hits sync so you can hear it. Yeah, you know, if you're a guitarist or any other instrumentalist, because drummers just we're a time-based, you know, a time-based instrument. So we're gonna work on our time, you know, we're going to work on making sure our subdivisions or the spaces between the notes add up, because it's not so much the notes, but the spaces between the notes. All right, you guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm starving like Marvin. I'll be back later.